Hey everyone, I apologize for my long absence on this channel. There were a few things I had planned on doing reviews on, and I tried to film some of them. They just didn't come out the way I was hoping they would. So that's one of the reasons. Also, I got a new job, and it's actually a really good job. I'm making like 300 more per paycheck. So now I have more money, so that means I'm probably going to be doing a lot more when it comes to my hobbies, which is going to come up in the very near future, because there's a couple, like, literally big projects I'm going to be doing, and I'd really like to talk about those. So, I just figured I'd have a beer and do a review on this, because, as you guys can tell from the title, it's going to be about the Titanus. Now, on a couple of my other videos on the Legacy Ranger stuff, I said I hadn't planned on picking up the Titanus, which was true at the time, but since I do have this new job, I just figured, why the hell not? I have pretty much all the other Legacy stuff as it is, so to get this, it's kind of cool, especially since they promised a screen-accurate Ultra Zord, which I don't think I'm going to be displaying it like as the Ultra Zord. It's actually in the background, you guys might be able to see it, along with my original. And I'm going to be doing comparisons in this video too, so you guys can see everything about it, because I do have some complaints. I have some praise for it as well, so I'll get on that as the review goes. And yeah, I guess I, never say never, because I really wasn't planning on getting this, but I decided to go into Toys R Us. They had it. $200 later, I have it. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to waste too much time on this video, because there's a lot I want to talk about. So in the manner of like the other ones, it's very reminiscent of the original, and sorry, it's a really big package, which I think is misleading. But it has like the Legacy and Titanus stuff in gold foil, which is really cool. And like I said, it's similar to the old one, with the accurate markings on this. The top, just Titanus with the Titanus face on there. Sorry, I'm trying to look in my TV, which is behind my camera, to see if I can get this all in the shot. The back just shows the Titanus and shows some of the features. Like, you can move the neck, which is pretty awesome. And then it shows, combine that into the Ultra Zord, which looks pretty good. I don't know how TV accurate it is, because I've looked at studio model pictures, and that's what I usually go off of. To me, that's the best thing to use when it comes to accuracy. But it gives some of the features, like this does have a few die-cast parts. Gives like the little stats. It doesn't really give like a story for the Titanus, unfortunately. I don't know why they didn't do that. Instead, it just shows like the Ultra Zord, which is on the back. And then just, the story. The bottom is just shows the contents, which is Titanus. So, like I said, I want to kind of give a comparison between this one and the original one, because there are some features that are different. Most notably, like the neck, which is really cool. Now, for those of you who haven't seen some of my other reviews, like my ones on the repro labels, all of my Dino Zords and most of my Thunder Zords, which I haven't really shown, which, by the way, I do have a video that I meant to upload. I meant to edit it and all that good stuff about like how to apply repro labels. I really wish I would have done that. I just kept forgetting. It was just kind of on the back burner. But all of mine have the repro labels, so they are more accurate. I don't have the original stickers. I don't have like multiple versions or anything like that to like really show how the original one compares. So it's kind of unfortunate there. But in another way, a lot of people, they were going for the repro label stuff. Up until fairly recently, it seems, since the Legacy stuff was released. So, just bear that in mind. But it is the original. It's not like, some knockoff or anything like that. Just, I took off the original stickers and put on repro label stuff. So, let's go ahead and get down to this, because it's probably going to be a fairly in-depth review with not only the Titanus, but the Ultra Zord itself. So, I'll be right back. Alright, I apologize for the furnace running, but you guys should be able to hear me just fine. So this is the Titanus itself. One thing I was really excited about, because I never thought they'd be able to do it correctly, and yes, I accidentally ran over a little bit of soap on the washer and dryer, but the wheel treads actually, they're actually pretty accurate to the original. One thing that they did do with the wheels is the feet do move with them. So So instead of it being motorized, they still move, which is pretty cool. The claws here, these are actually die casts. The guns right here, those are die cast. There's very little in this that's actually die cast. And then the gun barrels on the back here, these are actually die cast. Now they did a really good job with the tail. Because before, with the old one, it was just kind of hollow. Now they did miss some details, like, in fact, I don't even think the silver is supposed to be back here. In fact, I'm almost 100% certain that it's not supposed to be there. I think it's just supposed to be the same color. At least the studio model was that way. Now, the original had gold back there instead. It seems like they did embellish some details. Like, the chain, I don't believe is supposed to be attached here. On the original toy, there was a little part that you could hook the chain reins into. But, you know, they did do a lot of stuff like the molded detail, like all of this stuff in here, which I believe these gold circles are actually supposed to have some of the hieroglyphics. Now, one of the main features of this that's really cool is the tail the head actually moves. And, I mean, it moves really well. I mean, it's, you know, the mouth doesn't close all the way. But, you know, like, having that posability, I mean, because there's the shot, you know, like, I guarantee you it's just a guy's hand in a puppet, but, you know, go back and do that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. I'm really glad that they did that. I don't think these are supposed to be gray. I think these are actually supposed to be black, the parts in between the neck plates. Again, I could be wrong on that. But there are, like, little tiny details that the original definitely didn't have. And actually, I believe... I thought that was a sticker. But all the hieroglyphics are done really well. I've compared it to the repro labels, and it seems like they've done a good job. Because the girl that did the repro label stuff, you know, really did her homework on it. But they are missing some. Like, there should have been some actually in here. There should have been some more red triangles, like on the back, apparently, which no one sees it, but there's supposed to be some back there as well. But the gun is very nice. They actually gave all these extra details, and it's actually, you know, filled in. The original, like I said, was pretty much hollow, which I'm going to show in here in just a minute. But I believe there's supposed to be a triangle back there too, which they just kind of overlooked. But nice looking. I think the neck is a little too small. It looks way out of scale to me. I mean, it could just be me, but it looks pretty small. But, you know, they did a good job. Like, you know, you can actually move it up and down, which not as much as the original. Also, when you open up the back, which the back was always a problem area on the original, but they actually added some more like hieroglyphic areas and then some actual detail back here, which is pretty nice. And, you know, it folds down, which I'm not going to show right now. So let's go ahead and get the original. Now, again, I have repro labels on mine. The neck posability was pretty limited on the original. It was pretty much you can move it up and down. Limited when it was like this, but pretty much you had that in the head, but you could close the mouth all the way. I actually did some painted details too, like the teeth weren't painted all the way silver, and I did all the black in there. So the girl who did these for repro labels, she really did her homework, and she tried to make sure they were completely perfect. But, and here's where I was talking about on the back. I'll just go ahead and open this, because this was a real problem area. It was on this kind of hinge that if it came off, you could put it back on easily, but it was kind of a pain. Chest plate just fell off. I usually don't keep it on there anyway, but, so that was like a problem area, and even like when you try to have it close and I mean, it was, you know, so kids didn't break it, which is good. But, the tail, you know, it was just a hollow piece, which I had the black details in there. Yeah, just hollow plastic, so it's kind of like, especially since you're supposed to open this up and put that into tank mode, which these snap on like kind of an awkward kind of fashion, but you know, it was still pretty cool. But I mean, you do see like those openings, and I believe mine still works. Yeah, it sounds like the batteries are dying. Actually, there it goes. Something's getting caught on it. But I can go ahead and put this into tank mode. one of the problems with the repro labels is they're not meant to be messed with a lot because they're like collector grade. So some of these they start to peel if you mess with them too much. So I'll go ahead and put the guns on this. They actually kind of like snap into place. So it's kind of cool. Like it is like the TV show, like where they kind of slid into place. The chest piece, it's actually kind of heavy because like the whole like front of the chest, which they did a good job on accurizing the guns there. But like that's kind of heavy because it is partially die cast, just the front part. And then this is supposed to kind of go down more. It doesn't really have the kind of motion, like the range of motion that the original had, but it's effective. So that is in tank mode. So I'll kind of give a comparison shot. So the original is obviously a lot bigger than the Legacy version, which I mean is to be expected because the Legacy stuff is smaller. I don't know why they made it smaller. Probably because the old Megazord they made smaller, and it's just like, well, we have this mold, why not just use that? Which is fine. I mean, a lot of people don't have the space for this kind of stuff anymore. So what I figured I'd do next is show the original Ultra Zord so you guys can see it, because it is pretty close to the studio model version, and then compare that to the Legacy version. Because there is one little detail that they added. Well, I shouldn't say a detail, one little part that they added that I thought was actually pretty cool. So I've shown this in a video before. One thing that people always seem to lose is the chains for the Ultra Zord. So I actually made my own, because the ones that came... Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust a piece here. Because the chains that came with it are actually pretty inaccurate. So I actually made my own, and they're more in scale, and they look like the studio model version. And I think that's what they were actually going for when they first designed this, is to make it look like the studio model. Now, again, these have like the repro labels, so the Z's aren't quite in scale with the on-screen version. It might be in scale with something else, but I'm not sure. But, because the studio model of the Ultra Zord was basically this. It was just like a toy. There wasn't a guy in a suit, because it didn't really do much. But, I was always happy with this. I wanted this so bad as a kid, because this thing is pretty huge. I mean, so, let's go ahead and show the Legacy version. And actually, before I show the Ultra Zord, one thing that I should point out is that the Titanus actually came with these little leg pieces. And I'm guessing, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like that was to address the weight issue. Because, as I said in my Dragon Zord review, the weight of this thing, because so much die cast is on the Dragon Zord, as well as the Megazord, particularly like the arms of the Mastodon, but these whole... like the chest piece of the Dragon Zord and the feet, that adds a lot of weight. I mean, this thing, weighs quite a bit. So I think like that was an added detail to, kind of balance out the weight. So then it's not just like tipping over when it's actually in the Titanus. But I'm not sure if I had these on my review of this, but, I actually got the repro label. So like these have the metallic paint. So stuff like... like the legs of the saber-tooth tiger are metallic, as well as these, and the other stuff for like the triceratops. So those are actually really nice. I've always been a fan of repro labels ever since I ordered a couple things from them. So I did keep the factory applied stickers, in case I ever do decide to sell it. I have the untouched sheet of the factory ones, and then the ones I didn't use from repro labels. So if I do sell it, then someone actually has the choice to go either or. So let's go ahead and go with the Ultra Zord and show some details with that. Now, one thing I don't like is this chain, because again, I don't think it's supposed to be attached, and also it's not very long. So to like get it in the gauntlets, because on the studio model, it actually just had it like between the two and then hanging down from the sides, kind of like how I did on my original Ultra Zord. So this... it looks like it's pretty much in scale, like it is pretty much in scale like my other one, but I think I'm going to have to find some longer lengths of chain that match this just to get it to look like that. Or maybe I won't, because again, I don't think I'm going to have this displayed as the Ultra Zord, even though like this, it is pretty TV accurate. I mean, the Z's on the Dragon Zord are actually a lot more screen accurate, but I'm not sure about these pieces up here. They seem a little big. I haven't really done a comparison. Maybe I'll edit this and like throw in like a comparison between these two and the studio model version, because I know the studio model version didn't have like metallic stickers. But having like the complete guns is pretty cool. One little nice thing is the chest piece actually just kind of slides in. On the original, it's like kind of like a snap-in piece. One thing I'm not showing, because it doesn't really matter that much, is the back. Like you can actually, on the original as well as on the Legacy one, you can actually attach the Dragon Zord's tail to the back as like a rear defense kind of thing. One thing I really do not like is that there is like no space for these gauntlets in the back here. The original one, there's actually plenty of space. I mean, there's like a lot of wiggle room. And the Legacy one, not so much. I mean, it seems like it's just stuck. Now, some people might say it's because the gauntlets are actually supposed to be forward and like holding the chain. But again, the picture I used for the studio model, it's not like that. And it clears it just fine. One thing, it's not the fault of the Titanus or anything, but like these feet, since you can pose them a little better, kind of get off center a bit. But I mean, it's very nice to have, you know, like this Ultra Zord, especially, you know, if you don't have the original like I do. If you have the original, it's a little underwhelming in my opinion, but it seems like a lot of the fans are very happy with them so far. So if the fans are happy, that's fine. $200 for just the Titanus is way steep. I don't really see where they pull that number from. I mean, again, there's like some cool stuff, like, you know, the wheels, which I never thought they were going to be able to do accurate wheels like that. And they did like make some things very user friendly, like the gauntlets. It's just these little tabs, and you just stick it in here, and that's really cool. That's a nice feature. The guns actually having barrels instead of just like these kind of hollow things, and then like the best we do is put stickers or paint it. That's very nice as well. And all the hieroglyphics. Well, I shouldn't say all of them. A lot of them are pretty accurate. The stuff in here is definitely inaccurate. You know, you can see that just from studio model pictures. I like a lot of the molded details, like the dragon claw in there. That's really nice. This isn't supposed to be black in here. That's actually supposed to be silver. Overall, I mean, it's very cool. And again, if you don't have the original, this is really worth, you know, picking up the entire set. I mean, you're going to be spending close to $400, but I mean, if you really want it, you know, it's definitely worth it. I would definitely say check it out. So I figured I'd wrap up with some opinions on it. Now, overall, I mean, like I said in the review, I think that the neck seems a little out of scale. I mean, I could be wrong. It seems like it is a bit small. I mean, it is really cool that, you know, you can pose it. And in fact, I was actually surprised because the tail of the Dragon Zord wasn't as posable as I was hoping it would be. Now, that's probably just, you know, the way it had to be made. You know, I don't really see how they could have added more posability to it. So the neck being as posable as it is actually very cool. But again, it seems a little small. Also, I think the diecast that they utilize, the spots they did it in makes sense. You know, don't get me wrong, it's great, but there's not enough of it. Like, there are other things that they could have done it on, but, you know, it is one of those things, it's like, I don't know where they could have utilized it, and it would have been effective. But, you know, for that kind of price, you know, it should have been more. Also, I mean, some people complain, like, they complain about the Dragon Zord not being electronic. We're all adults. Well, most of us are adults, you know, who are getting, I mean, it's made for like 15 and up, and most of us who are getting this stuff, we remember the original, and that's why we're getting, you know, these new Zords and all of that. So it's like, I kind of understand, and this one not having, you know, the motorized feature, I actually think that's better, because it would have probably made the cost even higher. And with it being smaller, it probably would have been harder to actually house all that stuff. So I get it. And like, plus, you know, just being able to like move them, you know, just like by pushing, it's kind of cool. Also, the details that they added are great. You know, they really did a good job. You know, like a lot of the stuff is pretty accurate. Some of it, I think Repro Labels just has them beat. And some of the stuff, sorry, I'm like looking at the box, you know, trying to get my thoughts together. Like some of the stuff, they see like metallic paint, and it is in a way, but in another way it's not. You know, I think like stickers, they could have been more effective, but I don't know that for a fact. So the main thing is this: the price tag, $200. Now, when the Legacy Megazord first came out, it was $60, and as some of you know, I got it later because at first I wasn't gonna get it because I'm like, I have the original, who cares? And then I found it, and by that point, I think it went up to 80, 79.99. And I got it, and I was actually really disappointed by it. You know, it was the old, I think it was 2010. It probably, actually, no, it wasn't 2010. I forget what year they re-released that. But it was basically just that version that just came out a few years ago with some die-cast parts. You know, so there were things like, you know, like on the back of the Mastodon arms, like when it's the Megazord, it's actually like hollow in there. And there were a few other things, like, I mean, that's cool that they had, like, you know, accurate markings, but by this point, that should have just been a given. I have no idea why Bandai of America changed it in the first place, but I was really disappointed. The Dragon Zord came out, and I loved it. It's a great toy. Like, they they did a really awesome job with it. There were just a couple little things, like, a couple things with the paint that I think they could have done better, like more metallic. Also, like, the head fin, you know, tilts, and, you know, it seems like that's... since it is soft plastic, they should have made provisions for that. And, you know, the Titanus, when I got it, I'm like, wow, this is a huge box. You know, this is really cool. You know, there's probably going to be in it. But it's very misleading. You know, you're really not getting a lot in there. Now, maybe that's just for packaging purposes, like, you know, to make sure that things don't get beat around or anything like that. But the fact is, the other ones had smaller boxes. Like, this box is, if I remember correctly, about the same size as the original one. And the original one was so much bigger. And... to me, $200 is a little outrageous. So it's, I don't know, it's one of those things, like, it's a really high cost. You know, the Megazord, $60, we'll say 60, you know, because that's the price it came out at. Dragon Zord, 80. This one, more than double the price. I mean, basically, you're paying more for Titanus than both of those. Even if you know, consider Megazord being 80. You know, that's still $40 less than this one thing. And it's not like you're getting a ton more stuff, like, you know, a lot more die casts and a lot more features or anything like that. So, honestly, in conclusion, would I recommend this? That depends. If you have all the other Legacy stuff, and you really want an Ultra Zord, and you don't have the original or something like that, go for it. Now, you might, I don't know this for a fact, you might be able to get the original on eBay, since the Legacy stuff is out. You might be able to get it for less than $200. But if you want it like mine, you know, with the Reaper labels, that's $48 a set. So even if you can get it, like the Titanus on eBay for $150 with shipping, it's still about the same thing. So it's one of those, it's one of those odd things. Like, can I recommend it? I don't know. I mean, if you're pretty hard up, like, you're hitting the mouth when it comes to money, I'd probably say skip it. You know, unless, like, you were really that hell-bent on getting an Ultra Zord, like, you know, this was your dream, and, you know, you never had the original or anything like that. If you have the money, great. But if it's, like, you know, you're really strapped for cash, I would say skip it. You know, it, to me, is really not that worth it. It's cool, but to me, it's not that great. You know, there are a few things that, you know, they did a really good job on, but overall, I'd say the price tag is just way too much, and I have no idea why they charge that much, you know, where that number came from. You know, because with that kind of price, you'd think you get a ton of die casts, you know, it would be bigger, things like that, more features, but, so yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, if you really want it, get it, but if it's like, I don't know if I can afford it, I'd say skip it. You know, it just, I don't know. That's just me. So, I hope you guys enjoy the review. I know I threw a lot in this, like I always do. So, like I said, I have a couple big projects planned, and they should be really awesome. So, hopefully you guys are going to stick around for that stuff, and I'll see you next time.